wanted to speak to you today about how to be a Buddha Christ. A Buddha Christ. What's a Buddha Christ? So we have plenty of people in the world who are Christians and Buddhists. And of course, Buddha was never a Buddhist, and Christ was never a Christian. And this notion of a Buddha Christ is really to actually more authentically, more deeply, more truly adhere to, follow, embody their teachings. And I want to speak about the different aspects of awakening that each one is symbolic of. We could say that it's the same awakening, but I think there are also different qualities, different aspects. So firstly, there's the Buddha awakening, the awakening to our true nature, the emptiness of self, our voidness, nirvana, the vastness of our true being. Cessation of suffering, a cessation of identification, and a realization of the stillness, the emptiness, the natural compassion and metta that we are. We could say this as one awakening, of course, expertly mapped out by that spiritual genius, the Buddha. And he taught that one should be a candle unto thyself, that you are the Buddha. Indeed, in Zen teaching we have this phrase, if you see the Buddha on the road, kill him. Because the idea of the Buddha, or the image of the Buddha in our minds, can actually obscure us from our own realization, our own realization, to actually see clearly, to recognize our own Buddha nature. So we could say this is one awakening to the emptiness, to the voidness. Another awakening, if that perhaps is the non-dual realization, is the awakening to unitive consciousness. Similar and yet distinct. This is the realization, we could say, the Christ awakening. The awakening to fullness, the awakening to love, the awakening to our connection with all things. And in that connection with all things, in that unification with God, with source energy, with spirit, with consciousness itself manifesting as form, we experience an extraordinary love, an impersonal, entirely unconditional love for all things, including ourselves. Including ourselves, as the Buddha said, there is no one in this universe more deserving of compassion than yourself. Christ, of course, was also clear on this, to forgive oneself, to forgive others. And ultimately, all this forgiveness, all this seeing clearly, is to forgive the same one, the one that we are, and to be reborn as the Christ, as our true self, as Christ consciousness. These times that we're living in, such interesting times, are they not? It seems to me that we don't have much need for more Buddhists or Christians. Though if you're a Buddhist or a Christian and you have some identification with that and you want me to be clearly respectful, I am. I love Christianity, I love Buddhism. I am actually a Buddhist and a Christian, technically. I'm also a Sufi myself. And my intention here is not to diminish any belief system or practice system, rather to celebrate them, and to celebrate the end result of an effective utilization of these spiritual technologies. And in that utilization, in that realization of our Buddha nature, of our Christ consciousness, as separate aspects of the one unfolding, the one awakening happening in our body, mind, in our nervous system, in our consciousness, is to see a deep integration, a deep merging of, we could say, the masculine and the feminine aspects or poles of consciousness, and to embody these awakenings in the world, to be the revolutionary that Christ was, that Buddha was, to be the change you want to see in the world, to be walking around the world, to be communicating with others in the recognition of your vastness, in the remembrance of your true nature, and in the openness of your Christ heart. This is a little bit of what I mean when I say to be a Buddha Christ. Do not settle. Do not settle for being a Buddhist or a Christian. Christ himself taught that you shall do what I have done and more. Both of these guys were not here to set up religions. They were here to point you to your true nature, to your connection with God, and to provide you with a practice and a pathway to realize that for yourself. It is arrogant to believe yourself to be anything less than the Buddha or the Christ. So from one Buddha Christ to another. Thank you so much for connecting with me today.